Midnight light on a dim-lit screen, clicking through stories you wouldn't believe. Cold case trails and courtroom scenes, whispers from the grave and media dreams. Truth is stranger, hearts beat faster, in the shadows of a news disaster. Scrolling deep where secrets hide, you found the stories time won't deny. Headstones and headlines, the tales collide. Justice and mystery, side by side. From backwoods clubs to breaking news lines, you shine a light where the silence lies. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Small town rumors and urban fear, a voice for the lost who can't speak here. Through every name, through every case, you hold the truth in a steady place. Cameras roll but justice lingers, truth unravels through careful fingers. You tell a story, speak their names in a world that's quick to look away. Headstones and headlines, the tales collide. Justice and mystery, side by side. From backwoods crimes to great night trials, you trace the echoes through every mile. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Some run from the dark, you walk right in with a question and a camera lens. It's not just a crime, it's the lives they led. The voice is still talking from the books unread. Headstones and headlines, the veil is thin. Truth gets louder when you begin. With every view, with every line, you bring the forgotten back to life. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Yeah, headstones and headlines, you tell the stories that time can't hide.
Hey everyone, happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Let me just double check that. Yes. Oh, I'm not on the right mic. I don't know why it does that. I had a feeling that I wasn't going to be on the right mic, and sure enough, I wasn't. So I'm glad I caught that sooner than later. Thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. We have some pretty interesting stories today, especially about the switched at birth. I saw it yesterday. And, I've heard stories about DNA finding, relatives you didn't know you had. It happened in my family. But this story is something. 38 years ago, 2 boys born in the same hospital, the only 2 babies born on that day, were switched at birth. And the one man decided to do a DNA test. And when it came back that his parents weren't his biological parents, things started to happen. So it's just wild with that. We have some updates in Nolan Wells, and then I have some just random stories that I saw that I thought were interesting. The last one, normally I do a feel-good story. The last story is actually really funny. I couldn't stop laughing at it. So hopefully y'all find it funny too, unless I just have some strange type of sense of humor. So I did see Sunnyside here. Thanks for being here. Why Wonder, glad you could make it. I'm sad you just missed it yesterday. I saw your your comment right after I ended the live. So hopefully you can make the next one. Pookie, thanks for being here. And anyone else who may be in the bushes, thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. Hopefully notifications went out. I know yesterday they didn't go out for several people. Hopefully they find their way. So I am going to get started. And the first story I have the switched at birth is actually going to be the second story, because as I was preparing for this live, I saw that there is a fugitive out of Florida, a female fugitive, who is, she apparently is very manipulative. She has several aliases, and I just heard about it today, and it seems like she's been on the run for several days. So I'm going to start with that, and then we'll get into the switched at birth. So did I even share this? No. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I just didn't add it to the state. Oh, I did. Okay, there we go. Okay. So this woman is Isabella Johnson, and she is on the run for murder. She murdered a man. They are unsure of what their actual relationship is, but some believe it was a love triangle. And then I heard, I think the clip that I have, this clip actually said it could be more of a spider web, not necessarily a triangle. So it's very bizarre. But she could be anywhere. Authorities believe that she's dyed and cut her hair to look different already. It appears that she did have help getting out of prison. So I'm surprised I didn't hear about this sooner. So let's go.
Authorities are pressing the public for help finding an accused killer who police say is a master manipulator.
I'll put the address, and the address will tell me you found.
Isabel Johnson is accused of murdering Florida father Jason Coldhart. He disappeared in May, and last month authorities say they found his body in a shallow grave under concrete and a vehicle. They say this surveillance footage the next day.
And so she looks, to me, much different. She's much thinner than she was in this photo. And this was the day after the alleged murder.
Shows Isabel Johnson speaking frantically.
From here, originally. So I'm lost. Here, I can't find it.
Concocting a lie in order to flee.
The video that we released, she reported that she was just involved in a domestic violence incident. Unequivocally false. She was able to get a ride back into Walton County, and that's ultimately where we got that video from.
Investigators say even before Isabel Johnson was wanted for murder, she used a number of aliases like Harley, Jessica Bowman, and Jessica Thrash.
She was arrested for possession of stolen property in Georgia.
They say she frequently changed.
Oh, wow. So she definitely looks different in pretty much every photo. Even like these two, you can tell it's the same person, but if I was to see her on the street looking either way, I wouldn't necessarily know it was the same person. Yeah, like a chameleon for sure.
Her appearance, and investigators believe she has now cut and dyed her hair to further conceal her identity. She's also believed to have had help. 5 people have been arrested for allegedly helping her flee, including the person who lived at the home where Jason Coldhart's body was found.
Her MO is 2-3 days here, 2-3 days there, really kind of all over the place, using other people's phones, using other people's financial means, etc. And that's one of the things that we know for a fact she's doing to evade.
Local law enforcement have now assembled a task force, and they're working with federal agencies to track her down.
I do feel confident that we have some updated information here in the last few days that we're back on the right path.
Now, the relationship between Isabel and the man she allegedly killed is still unclear. Police say they may have been friends, or there also could have been some kind of love triangle involved. In fact, when we talked to investigators, they said there might be 5 different love triangles between the suspect, the murder victim, some of the witnesses, the people who allegedly helped her. It's a crazy case. They are just focused, though, on finding Isabel.
So they believed initially it was a love triangle, but this man says many love triangles, that's a spider web. Although there are no triangles in spider webs. But just for purposes of this analogy, I'm going to use a spider web. Yeah, 5. And I'm going to go back because... So here are, I mean... Really? Oh my gosh. I mean, and these, well, this guy definitely, I mean, he looks like many people. The guy in the middle, actually, the guy in the middle kind of reminds me of Rex Heuermann. And then these 2 ladies. So, wild. So I do have an article that was updated earlier today that we'll look at before we move on. So, Florida woman on the run and wanted for murder relied on network of alleged accomplices to evade capture. And I did do a short. It was just the wanted poster that they had shared on social media, just so that, you know, hopefully more people see it. A woman wanted in a murder case has spent weeks slipping through law enforcement's grasp, with investigators alleging a string of suspected accomplices helped keep her hidden while she remains on the run. Isabel Rose Johnson, 38, is wanted on charges in the killing of Jason Christopher Coulthart. A warrant for her arrest was issued on June 26th, and she has been dodging detectives ever since. So I actually was mistaken. I thought when I had initially heard it that she had escaped. She's escaped being apprehended. I assumed that she had escaped jail. So that was my mistake. Okay, thanks, Sunnyside. The Walton County Sheriff's Office said Johnson, who is a, quote, cunning master manipulator, has been relying on the help of others to stay incognito. 5 people have been arrested in connection to the murder investigation. And here they are. Here they are. So these 5 are already arrested. And here's the girl wanted. These 2 actually look alike. This girl in the top left and her look alike. As the sheriff's office continues to hunt Johnson down, investigators shared different photos of Johnson seen on surveillance in a mugshot from Carroll County, Georgia. And those we had seen in that clip that we just saw. Johnson has worn different hairstyles, hats, and even eyeglasses to change up her appearance. She also has reportedly been giving out different names to identify herself, like Harley, Jessica Elaine Bowman, and Denise, to different people she comes in contact with. I wouldn't be surprised if she has even more names that she's telling people. Because if authorities know about Harley, Jessica, and Denise, I would think she's not going to use those names. She's going to come up with something different. As for the man she is accused of killing, Coulthart's remains were found on June 25th, buried on a property in Freeport, located in Florida's Panhandle. What a shame. What a shame. He was reported missing a month earlier on May 24th. The last time Coulthart was seen alive was when he was leaving the college condominiums on East College Boulevard. The 43-year-old victim leaves behind a son, according to his obituary. Sheriff Michael Atkinson said, anyone found to have helped or is still assisting Isabel Johnson avoid arrest will be charged accordingly. He went on to say, if you give her a place to stay, help her hide, or lie for her, you will face consequences. This is a homicide case. We will not allow anyone to get in the way of this investigation. Multiple law enforcement organizations have come together to offer Multiple law enforcement organizations have come together to offer up a $16,000 reward for information that could lead to Johnson's arrest. Oh, and that was it. So, Isabella Johnson, is there another? Here she is. Well, she's telling people that it's a domestic incident, domestic violence incident, not a murder incident. So, hey, Nanny, thanks for being here. And anyone else who is here listening in the bushes, I do appreciate you. Thanks for being here. We are going to move on to the story that I had on my thumbnail, which is this case of these two men who were switched at birth. And a lot of the news stories that I've seen are saying that they were allegedly switched at birth, which I guess without, proof. The hospital is now being sued, as they should be. And this is just, I feel like there would be more stories like this, but I guess, unlike the past, they should have proper protocol in place to not switch babies. And when there's only 2 babies born on the same day, it should be very difficult to mix them up. But they did. So I have a couple of articles on this, or a couple of videos.
It's also me as a baby. I am suing Grafton Unity Medical Center in Grafton, North Dakota for switching me and Kyle Boleyn at birth. January 26, 1988, only Kyle and I were born in that hospital that day. It's the only time we've ever been.
In my thing, so I put the 2 pictures next to that, like them as adults, on my thumbnail, because in my opinion, these babies do not look alike at all. And I don't know if the age is the same, but like this baby, this one is much more petite, like smaller. This one, the forehead is much larger. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Hey, Angie, thanks for being here. Why Wonder says, you'd think in this day and age with our tech, they could make such a huge mistake. Right. Well, yeah, even in it was 1988, but still. And I mean, when did they start? I'm wondering when they started putting like the alarms on babies in case people tried to steal them.
Together.
My aunt Martha and I were on Ancestry.com. I had done further DNA testing on my raising mom, Evelyn Newton, that came out conclusively that, she was biologically my brother's mom, but she didn't match with me on the platform. Martha and I started talking, and I said, does your family have a connection to North Dakota in the 1980s? And she said, well, yes, my sister Liz lived there in the 1980s. When were you born? And I said, well, I was born January 26, 1988. She's like, wow, that's when my nephew Jeremy was born. And, after trading articles we read on the internet of alternative explanations of this,
And the fact that he says they looked up alternative explanations, I mean, the first thing you would think is, there was a mistake, because this actually happened in my family as well. My cousin, who, gosh, he's a lot older than me. So he probably was like early 50s at the time. He did a DNA test. And my uncle wasn't his biological dad. That's what the DNA test said. So he took it again. He actually called the Ancestry. He said, there's got to be a mistake. There's no way. So Ancestry said, the chances of a mistake are very slim, but we'll send you another test. Maybe there was something wrong with the test. So they sent him another test. He did the test, same results. Well, come to find out, his mom had an affair when my uncle was serving in the Marines. So that is how he found out that the dad he knew his entire life wasn't his biological dad. Hey, Patricia, how are you? Yeah, crazy. And we found cousins we didn't know we had, which is really cool. So we've been able to do that. And, you know, there's benefits, but there's also, like in this case, like, what do you, like, both of your parents aren't matches for DNA. Like, I don't even know what I would do. I remember in high school when it was high school biology, you would do like the Punnett squares, and I have blue eyes. My parents both have brown eyes. So I was like, there's no way I have blue eyes. I have to be adopted, not understanding that I just have the recessive gene and my grandfather had blue eyes. So that's where I got it from. But, you know, as a kid, being ignorant and naive, I was like, there's no way I can have blue eyes. Yeah, so there's benefits and negatives for sure, detriments. But, you know, getting back to what I was saying, like this guy, you know, we were exploring what else could it be? And then you realize, oh my gosh, that's what happened. We were switched.
She kind of concluded and said, basically, look, Kyle, I think the only way to explain this is that you were switched at birth.
They said that we were born there, but the records and everything, it's all too old, and they're claiming statute of limitations. But the statute of limitations is from the moment you find out. How am I supposed to find out at a...
You know, I didn't even think about that. Because, you know, I think of like crime cases, statute of limitations, but now the hospital is saying that they don't have, which I think they only keep records for a certain amount of time. They're also saying that the statute of limitations has run out, which I didn't even think to look that up. Let me actually, I mean, I guess like limitations, switched at birth, I guess that would be, I mean, okay, so according to Google, the statute of limitations for being switched at birth is complicated because hospitals often argue that decades-old deadlines bar the lawsuit, while plaintiffs argue that the clock should only start when the mix-up is actually found. Okay, so wow, that's really loud. Hold on. It's so nice here again. I had the windows open, but it's like super loud outside for some reason now. So how the legal time limit works. Plaintiffs usually argue that the time limit should not start until DNA tests or sudden evidence reveal their real truth, because no one can fix a hidden error they do not know about. That is very true. In many places, the time limit for a child's legal claim does not fully run out until they reach adulthood, age 18, plus a few extra years, but decades-long delays still test these rules. Some states have absolute final cutoff dates that block lawsuits after a specific number of years, regardless of when the hidden mistake comes to light. So let me actually make that more specific. Let me put in North Dakota. And the first thing that comes up is this case. So it says in North Dakota, a lawsuit involving two men alleging they were switched at birth at Unity Medical Center in 1988 highlights a central legal battle over the statute of limitations, specifically whether the time limit begins at birth or at the date of discovery. The hospital has cited the passage of nearly 4 decades and the age of records in its defense, while the plaintiffs argue the clock should start when the mix-up was uncovered via DNA testing. I agree with them. I agree. It should start when they find out. Hey, Remy, thanks for being here. Okay, Patricia, I'll be ready. Kyle Bylan and Jeremy Morrison were born on January 26, 1988, as the only two babies at the Grafton Hospital that day and were allegedly sent home with the wrong families. The switch was hidden for over 36 years until modern at-home DNA and genealogy testing revealed the truth. Filed in Walsh County District Court, the hospital denies liability, points to missing records, and retired staff from nearly 40 years ago. Well, call them in. Hopefully they'll be, subpoenaed. And raises defenses, including the statute of limitations and comparative fault. I don't know what comparative fault is. Let me see. Let me look that up. I've never heard of that before. Comparable fault. Oh, North Dakota. There we go. So North Dakota uses a modified comparative fault rule, often called the 50% bar rule, meaning you can recover money for an injury only if your share of the blame is less than 50%. If you are 50% or more at fault, you get nothing. When your fault is below 50%, your payout is reduced by your exact percentage of blame. Okay, so that has... So I'm guessing the hospital is 100% at fault. They're the ones who switched the babies.
1-year-old baby when DNA testing isn't even invented yet for the random people like me.
We would love to find out what happened and whom or what might be accountable for this. And, number two, raising awareness for the incident itself, because for all we know, this is something that could have happened more than once.
DNA.
Yeah, it could have. So I feel like every baby that was born in the 80s at that hospital should get a DNA test. Because if they did it once, they might have done it more than once. I would say, yeah, I wonder. I mean, I don't know the circumstances. I would assume that the hospital would be 100% at fault for this. Patricia. Okay, so here's Patricia's. When I met my daughter's dad, he had just lost his mom, and she had told him he was adopted and gave him a pic of his real mom. I saw the pic. I got into a black Hackney cab 6 months pregnant with his child. The cabbie was a woman, and I recognized her from his mom's photo. She became the greatest of grandmas to my daughter. We lost her during C-19. Oh, that's so sad. I'm sorry for your loss. What an incredible story, though. What an incredible story. It's just wild.
Test is not going to take away 38 years of memories. It can't. When I say my mom and my dad, I'm talking about Terry Morrison and Elizabeth O'Toole.
And granted, he said he's had 2 years to process it, but I mean, I don't know how you would process this in just 2 years. Like, it's just so unbelievable. And then to have the hospital just deny any wrongdoing, there's missing records and, statute of limitations. Well, are both sets of parents living? That's a good question. I don't know. Let me Google. That's one thing that I didn't look at. So Kyle Bylan and Jeremy Morrison, parents. I'm not sure if, I didn't see any articles that actually, let's see if I can read this one. This one looks promising. I'm just going to skim it quick. So Kyle's mom is still alive because she did an interview. Actually, let me see if I can. Hopefully it'll let me read this. Oh my gosh, these freaking ads. Now it's stuck. Okay, here we go. Hold on a second. I don't know. It's like trying to load and it wants me to sign up for. No, I don't want to sign up. Go away. Go away. Okay. So this is from Fortune. So it says, my mind was just completely blown. 2 families sue hospital after DNA proves their kids were switched at birth 38 years ago. What is happening? Why did it go? Oh my gosh, hold on a second. This is ridiculous. Like, I was just reading the article and now it's like acting all wacky. Like, I don't know why it went to that other article. Okay, I think it's back. I don't know what just happened. The families of 2 men who discovered through DNA tests that they were switched at birth 38 years ago are accusing a North Dakota hospital of robbing them of the lives they were supposed to lead. Oh, I guess maybe I can't read it. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I just had the whole article up here. All right, well, I guess we'll go to the clip and then I'll try to see if I can get it somehow. How frustrating. Like, I legitimately just was reading it. So this clip is from News Nation. And Chris Cuomo is a little bit over dramatic in this, I will say. But it kind of gives a little bit more information with both of the men on the same platform.
This is crazy. Okay, this is just crazy. 38 years ago, January 26, 1988, Kyle Bylan and Jeremy Morrison were the only 2 babies born at Unity Medical Center in North Carolina. Just like most families, their parents left the hospital a couple days later with their bundles of joy. Now, they were bundles of joy. They just weren't the right ones. Fast forward to just a few years ago, Kyle, one of those babies, now a man, takes a home DNA test just for fun, okay? Millions of us have done this. Only to realize he doesn't match a single member of his family.
A single member, because you think, right? So like I've done the DNA on Ancestry and 23andMe. And so you would think, you know, like my cousin, his mom showed up, his half-sister showed up, but my uncle didn't. So, I mean, I would just be like, there's no way. There's no way. There has to be a mistake.
Why? Duh. Because they're not his biological parents. The test did lead him to a biological aunt. In comes her nephew, Jeremy, the other baby born in that North Dakota hospital 38 years ago. Jeremy takes the DNA test. He is biologically linked, not to his family, to Kyle's. The 2 men were switched at birth, just like the story goes. Jeremy and Kyle join me now in their first interview together. Gentlemen, I don't even know what the right welcome is, but it is great to hear that you've at least learned the truth. But Jeremy, you tell me, what is the right framing on this? What does this mean to you? How do you feel about this?
Well, I've had 2 years to process it. And, you know, I still have the Morrison side of the family, and that's never going to change. You can't take away 38 years of memories with a single DNA test. But we're just trying to connect as much as we can now that we're adults with our biological parents.
And Kyle, what do you know about why this happened? because the DNA tests are dispositive. That's not the question about whether you guys are faking it. The only question is how this happened. What do you know?
I think that's ultimately the million-dollar question, and we're ultimately hoping that either through investigation.
And I mean, when you look, I mean, he does not look like his brother at all. Brother's got blonde hair, narrow nose, narrow face. Their eyes kind of look similar, but I mean, they just look so different.
Or through our trial that we actually get to the bottom of what happened here and how two people ended up in two different homes.
Did you ever suspect that you were different from your biological family?
No, I didn't suspect that I was different. I mean, my mom was adopted from Germany when she was a small child. And so any differences were just kind of pushed off as, well, maybe it's that other side of the family that we just don't know so well.
And Jeremy?
I mean, and to be honest, he kind of looks like her. He kind of looks like the face shape is similar, you know, like the eyes are similar, yet just different. Whereas when I see the other one, right, the other man, Kyle, I wouldn't think that that was his mom, but I don't know what the dad looks like. So
how about for you? Was there any kind of sense of anything?
Well, I didn't have any cousins on either side, my mom's or my dad's side. I was the only child, only nephew, only grandchild. So I had no one.
I mean, and he kind of looks like her. Their noses look similar. I don't know. It's just so bizarre. Yeah, I agree, Patricia. Their cranial shapes are definitely much different, even in, you know, older age, same as when they were babies. But
to base my looks off of other than my parents. And
I don't know, man. So when I see Kyle's parents that he grew up with, I feel like he looks more like them than their biological son does.
I guess I kind of thought maybe I was just a mix of the both of them because I kind of ended up in the middle of their height. But I used to joke around with my mother that I was adopted.
Jeremy, what did you pick up from the people who raised you when they learned this? How tricky was that to navigate about giving them what I'm sure you did, which was the comfort that, you know, they're your mom and dad, they raised you. How did you negotiate that space?
Well, so my mom was the one who told me the information that Kyle and her sister Martha had already kind of found out amongst themselves. And so I had to navigate it with my dad, and that was a little trickier. He was assuming that he was just not the father and that my mom was still my mom. And so I was like, no, neither of you are my parents. So.
That is a huge distinction that you had to draw that absolutely would have changed.
I know, right? Because if you find out, like if he says, hey, you know, I did this DNA test and neither of you are my parents. The dad might be just hearing, I'm not your father, thinking the mom wasn't faithful. A whole different story there. I mean, what?
The story in very material ways as his reaction. Kyle, where does this leave you in terms of who you are and your sense of identity?
I mean, it's definitely a strange mental space to occupy to realize that, like, you know, I'm seeing on the screen right now my own photo as Kyle Boleyn as a child, knowing that I was born Jeremy Morrison, and that could have been a totally different life with thousands of different friendships, relationships, memories, and emotions. There's just no way to rewind the clock and go back to that. So I think now it's just a matter of trying to find a path forward and to hopefully, you know, rectify this and settle it.
I don't know how they screwed it up when there were only two of you. Jeremy, you guys believe that litigation is part of this. What are you seeking?
You'll have to ask my attorney that question.
Okay, happy to. Happy to follow it all the way through. And what do you think of each other? Like, you technically, you're not related at all, even though you've been living with the other one's biological family your whole life. What does that mean? Like, Jeremy, like, do you feel a bond with Kyle, or are you just two guys in the same?
Yeah, Remy, same. I'm shocked. So Remy says, I'm shocked there wasn't something that brought this out sooner. Yeah. There was, when I was in high school, there were these two brothers. Or no, they weren't brothers. They turned out to be brothers, half brothers. But in high school, there was these two kids who they really resembled each other, but they weren't related, right? So we just thought, oh, they just look like each other. Well, it turns out they look like each other because they were half siblings. Yeah. Telling you, lots of things come out in the wash. In this case, they come out in the DNA tests. Patricia says, it's like humans and dogs that live together grow to resemble each other. That's true. That's true. Yeah, he did, Patricia. He looked like the odd one out. And, you know, just like, you know, was it Jeremy had said, he told his mom, I think I'm adopted. Like, he wasn't lying, even though he seemed to be joking around. Remy says, like anything, blood type at the hospital at birth, certain blood types can't make another type. Right. Remy says, I went to high school with a guy who ended up being the half sibling of my boyfriend. One knew, the other didn't. Oh my gosh. It's craziness. What would I do if this happened to me? I don't know. I don't know how I would react. I mean, clearly I would panic because that's just me. I'm always worried about something, anxious about something. Like, I have a very nervous personality. And I blame my mother. I blame my mother for that. But I honestly don't know. I feel like it's not fathomable. Like, there's no way that you can even begin to understand how this is.
Predicament.
I feel like we're just two guys that kind of drew the same short straw at the same time on the same day. And, you know, we're going through this together the best we can navigate. I feel like I know Kyle because I know his entire family. And I feel like he probably feels the same way about me.
Oh, and that was it. I did find an article from, I think this is Men's Journal. And it just kind of talks about the lawsuit. So it says, who are Jeremy Morrison and Kyle Byland? What we know about the switched at birth lawsuit. What if you were switched at birth and you didn't find out the truth until 36 years later? This is the case for Jeremy Morrison and Kyle Byland, two 38-year-old men who learned they were born just hours apart. I believe it was 10 hours apart, in the same North Dakota hospital on January 26, 1988. In fact, they were the only babies born at the hospital that day. Interestingly enough, it was a DNA test 2 years ago that led to this revelation. Byland received a test during a Christmas gift exchange. A discovered connection to his actual biological aunt impelled her nephew Morrison to take a test himself, leading to the two learning that they were, quote, raised by each other's biological families. Morrison, who now lives in Colorado, claims he has no cousins, making Byland's connection to his aunt quite strange. Byland, who was actually born Jeremy Morrison, still has the hospital bracelet misidentifying him as Kyle Byland. So That's interesting. I don't remember hearing that. So they also had the wrong hospital bracelets on. Well, if they were born hours apart, how does that happen? Because you would think the first baby born would have the correct bracelet because the other one didn't exist yet. Wow. Morrison told KKTV that he stood out among his family growing up. I didn't have anyone that looked like me in my family. I was that blonde-haired kid that stood out in a family full of brown-haired people. Now, both sets of parents are suing the Unity Medical Center in Grafton, North Dakota, alleging that Morrison and Byland were switched before their parents took them home, which caused, quote, permanent and irreparable damage to the plaintiffs and their parent and child relationships. Per the lawsuit, the plaintiffs are seeking $50,000 in damages and a jury trial. The North Dakota hospital denied the allegations and pointed out that the statute of limitations could prohibit the lawsuit. Unfortunately, because of the passage of nearly 4 decades, the medical and staffing records that might have provided additional clarity no longer exist, and no members of the delivery team from that time are still employed by the hospital. While we deeply sympathize with the men and their families, we have found no evidence to support the claims that Unity Medical Center or its staff were responsible for what occurred. Then who else was responsible? Hospital staff? Who else switched them at birth? They can't put hospital bracelets on each other's babies. I mean, there's 38 years of evidence. They lived with the wrong parent. Hey, Marie, thanks for being here. Hey, Joe, good to see you. Thanks for being here. However, despite the denial, the hospital is, quote, currently working to better understand a highly unusual situation involving 2 men who apparently were separated from their biological parents at some point they're saying at some point during their lives. It was in the hospital. Hey, Caudle, how are you? Like, these statements are so political and orchestrated. Like, it just takes common sense to realize that they were switched at the hospital. Morrison and Byland have met their respective biological parents in the time since the DNA test discoveries. The men themselves have also spoken on the phone, but have yet to meet in person. Evelyn Newton, who raised Byland, will always think of him as her kin, but confesses that she feels, quote, robbed of what she could have had with her biological son. You can't go back and replace 35 years. First steps, driving a car, getting married. How do you make up for that? Exactly. There's no price tag. There's no price tag to that. And there's all those what ifs, and you can't change it. So, I mean, I still say what if, what if I had done this 20 years ago? What if I had chosen to do this instead of this? But you can't do that because you can't change it. You can't go back and change. It's not like those. Do you remember those pick a path stories? So like you'd read like a few pages and it would say, if you want to do this, go to page whatever. If you'd rather do that, go to this page. Like, it's not like a pick a path book. It's just your path is your path now. But it's what you do going forward that's important. So they're not going to get any of those things back. But thankfully, both sets of parents are still alive and they can share with each other. Like, they can learn what those things were like. Gosh, crazy, absolutely crazy. All right, so that is all I have on that. I will keep an eye to see what may happen going forward. And, this was, well, they found out 2 years ago. And, I just learned of it. Actually, I think it was this morning I saw the story. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I also saw, and now I don't remember the state, but there was a missing boy. It's somewhere that like the northern Midwest. A boy 10 years ago went missing, and there's new evidence in his case. I haven't gotten to look at that yet, though. Hey, TLC is me. Thanks for being here. TLC says, but once those bracelets are put on, they don't take them off, ? Right, I would think. It was January 26th, 1988. But before I say that, let me just double check. Yes, January 26th, 1988. Remy says you can't take the bracelets off now. They have to be cut off. And I know when I was born in 78, and my mom still has my bracelet, and it was cut off. So even back then, they had like that metal clasp where it was almost like a zip tie, where they would, pull it, and then it would snap, and then you would have to cut it off. Pookie says hospitals will say and do anything when they know there's a possibility of a lawsuit, of course, because they're, they need to protect themselves. I mean, I think this might even be a precedent case. And, I have some relatives who didn't want to take a DNA test. They're like, no, I don't want to know. I don't want to know any secrets coming out. I don't want to know nothing. So there could be, more people out there that this may have happened to. Or even more so, I think of, children who may have been, either kidnapped by family members, or even, they were taken and then, adopted out to other families. Like DNA could absolutely shed light on some things. You don't hear about it a lot, but I'm wondering if there's any other stories like this out there. Marie says, my first pregnancy, I thought one nurse was going to abduct her. She made me nervous. Oh, no. That reminds me of a book I read. It was called The Orphan Collector. If you want to read a good book, read that. It took me probably less than 2 days to read. It was so good. And it was this nurse. Well, she wasn't a real nurse. She pretended to be a nurse during the, oh my gosh, was it? I don't remember what it was. The Black Plague, maybe? I can't remember. It was some type of disease where, there was a lot of people dying. And this woman would go around and collect all of the babies, saying, she worked for a nurse. She was a nurse, and she was going to take them to, the orphanage. And instead, what she would do is take the babies and then sell them to people who had either lost their own children or who were looking to adopt children. It was crazy. It was crazy. Joe says, when I had my kids, they were never out of the room. Oh, what's this one? I missed this comment. Pookie said, they tried putting my oldest in prison while her sister was fighting for her life. Oh my gosh. Right, Remy. The metal clasp back then, nurseries were more common than now. So unless they had a barcode scanners like now, there's no way to know. That's true. And I just feel like there was only 2 babies born that day. How do you mess that up? Especially 10 hours apart. It's not like it was 10 minutes, even 10 minutes. Like that's a pretty long time. All right. So we're going to move on to Nolan Wells. And I need to go to YouTube for the next video because for some reason it won't let me play it on Google Slides. All right, so Nolan Wells, for those of you who may not know the story, Nolan Wells was an 18-year-old who didn't return from a boating trip on July 4th. His mom ended up calling police to report him missing. His cell phone was at a friend's home, who you wonder, why did the friend have the phone? And, you know, there's just a lot of suspicious things, inconsistencies, in my opinion, that are going on. A friend of Nolan's said that Nolan decided that he wanted to stay back to spend time with a girl. The mother spoke to the girl and said, the girl said it was just a hey and bye situation. They didn't talk for more than that. TMZ was able to get this video that they are purporting may be the last moments anyone saw Nolan. And then I do have a clip from ABC News about the autopsy report that came out yesterday. I did do a short on it as well, if anybody saw that. But if you didn't see my short, we're going to talk about it today. Yeah, they're huge boats. And the one man, so there was, I think it was a fisherman, had said there were hundreds. Did he say hundreds or thousands of boats there that day? I think he said hundreds. And my question was, you know, if Nolan stayed behind, as, you know, the one friend said, who wasn't even on the same boat as him, which is also suspicious. But anyways, did no one notice Nolan there? Like, as people were leaving to go home, I mean, eventually there would just be, you know, a few people remaining. But there are some interesting conclusions that did come out of the independent. So they had an independent private autopsy done on Nolan in Washington, D.C. This happened on Horn Island in Mississippi. And I'm not sure what the original autopsy results were. Remy says, I truly don't think there was foul play, at least with intent. If he's in that water and one of those boats start up, there's nothing out there, no lights, right? No cell service. And, you know, the one fisherman that we had heard from said, you know, and even another person, and maybe, I don't know if it's in a clip that I have for tonight or if it was one that I watched on my own, said that at the one end of the island, the currents are really strong and it's almost like a drop off. So like it's shallow and then all of a sudden it drops off, which I believe, if you've seen that story in Ohio of the 5 people who lost their lives trying to rescue a 6th person in the water, that there's witnesses that said even there it's like shallow and then it just drops off, like without warning. Yeah, see, and that makes sense, Remy. State medical examiner hasn't released results due to waiting for tox to come back, which we all know can take a bit. Yeah, it can usually take months. And that's why I'm, you know, I don't know, just the way that Ben Crump was like talking, like, first of all, and I mean, this is in no way taking away from the fact that Nolan's parents deserve answers and they deserve to have answers. When they released the results of the autopsy, the independent autopsy, it was like a production. It was a show. I found it very disturbing. Like, there was clapping, there was like, you know, before they did the results, there were like some lawyers spoke, and I don't know who the first guy was that spoke. The parents spoke, which makes sense. And then Ben Crump spoke. And that's when they had like these huge poster boards of the autopsy results. And just the way he iterated certain words, I'm like, okay, we get it. But, and then they're clapping after like certain, not the parents, like they're clapping before the parents even spoke. It was almost like a sermon. That's what it, kind of like a sermon, but more of a production. I don't know. I found it tacky and very unbecoming. But that's just my opinion. That's my opinion. Remy says, I was just up on the Cape 2 weeks ago. Beach there drops about 6 to 8 feet. I know it does that though. Wow, that's a pretty significant. Remy says they oohed and awed over Oregon. Yeah, it was so weird. So weird. I don't know. All right, so getting back to this. This is a new video that it is alleged that an African American man who is bending over on a boat could be the last image of Nolan Wells. He has similar swim trunks on, the same similar color, and the stature does appear like it could be Nolan. Whether it's him or not, no one's gonna ever know. Oh, you mean 6 to 8 inches? Okay, that's still a drop, but yeah, 6 to 8 feet would be like, whoa. Remy says, I felt it highly inappropriate. You could tell he was over enunciating words. Right. Like he'd say, pending further investigation. Like just read it normal. Like you don't have to emphasize. Medical examiners are just straightforward and to the point. You don't have to do that. I don't know.
This video obtained by TMZ shows the back of a black man.
Okay, so here is who they believe could be Nolan Wells. And I don't know if this is the boat that he was in when he got there. Don't know. Was there other, African American people there? Possibly. We don't know.
Man on a boat during a large party on July 4th. The man is wearing blue swim trunks, similar to this photo of Nolan Wells that was also taken that day 10 miles off of Mississippi's coast. Those in the group Wells was with told authorities they last saw him around 3 p.m.
Which is interesting because, the parents would be able to verify if this was the boat he actually went in on. I don't know who these two older people are. I would think it would be immediately verifiable if it was him or not. I don't know if he would be on someone else's boat. Like, what would he be doing on somebody else's boat? Marie says, I heard some pics were not even from that day. That's also possible. Right, Remy. No duh. Everything is pending further investigation. Tox isn't back. Right. And just like they said, like the discoloration, and we're going to get into all that, but it could be him. Absolutely.
Yeah. 30 minutes after the video was taken. They say
that is a huge boat too, though. Let me just look at that.
Video was taken. They say he chose to stay behind for a girl. His mother reported him missing later that night. And
how beautiful. It's beautiful, but you can see where it drops off. You can see right here, you can see that drop off. And I don't know what side of the island was where the currents were, if it was this side or that side.
His body was discovered 2 days later.
There were so many people. Boats, they were like on top of each other almost. It was intense.
Wells's college classmate, Lucas Aviz, was with family and friends on a different boat that day.
He may have been taken by the current. There's a certain part of the island where the current is pretty strong.
Okay, so it was this clip that I had. Okay, so this was the clip. Yeah, Remy. Yep. Hey, Summer. Thanks for coming in. I hope you are doing okay. I think about you often.
They say there's been no indication of foul play. Wells's family has publicly questioned the transparency of the investigation and hired a legal team led by attorney Ben Crump.
When people start to feel pressured, if they say anything, it's going to be attacked. No. Tell us. We want to evaluate every aspect.
On Monday, at a packed
from his quiet nature to the corny jokes, his gentle smile.
A $125,000 reward is being offered to anyone that has any information that'll lead to an arrest and conviction in Wells's death. Meanwhile, the results of an independent autopsy commissioned by Wells's family is expected to be released on Wednesday. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Atlanta.
So it's interesting that they said there's a reward for any information that leads to an arrest and conviction. So they're looking at it as if something nefarious happened to him. Right, Remy? Same thing that stuck out to me. They're going with the fact that he was murdered. Even before and I think Ben Crump had said that they had the autopsy report before they released it, but wanted to wait until after the funeral. So, yeah. But it's interesting. Arrest and conviction. Okay, so let's go to... So this next clip I have has to do with the autopsy report. Is it true his cell messages were deleted after the body was found? So according to his mom, she said that when she was able to get his cell phone back, his entire Snapchat was wiped clean. And she said he had more than one Snapchat account. She also said it appeared when looking at text messages that some of the messages had been deleted. So whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. I know that Mr. Crump had said that they are going to forensically analyze the phone to see what can be done. But it is strange. Yeah, I thought so too, Nanny. There's a lot of things that are strange in this story. Yeah.
Now to the latest on the investigation into the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells. Independent autopsy results commissioned by the family were announced Wednesday by attorney Ben Crump. It says that the cause of Wells' death is undetermined pending further investigation.
Right. Which, as we said, toxicology hasn't come back. The way that Crump made it seem is like there was something that they couldn't say because they needed more evidence. Well, no, medical examiners rely on the body to tell them what happened. I mean, and I think, I'm trying to think, it was was it like 10 days after? So he was reported missing on the 4th. He was located on the 6th on the shore of Horn Island. And I believe it was 10 days after the initial autopsy that the independent one was conducted. Yeah, Remy, that's a good point. Lungs not being mentioned. Remy says it's also not like Nolan was pulled immediately from the water. Right. Mm-hmm. And who knows if, the redness on the back of his skull could have been maybe he hit a rock, or, it could be anything. Initially, and the other thing that I found the boat that he had gone to the island with, when they were going to return back to the coast, they had called for help because there was something, the boat was malfunctioning. So they had a tow, I think they said about halfway, and then they were able to make it the rest. So I found that interesting as well, because there's just a lot of random, I don't want to say facts, but tidbits of information that make things a little more sketchy. Hey, Cheese, no notification. Of course. I know yesterday, I think it was Remy didn't get one for Words on Stream. Marie says, I don't know with Snapchat because they just... So the way that I took it, the way the mom was speaking, is that his entire Snapchat was wiped clean. So, like, not even in existence. That's what I took it as. Because, yeah, the messages do disappear. But normally, if you upload... I mean, I haven't had Snapchat in years, so maybe it's changed. But if you were to upload something, that would still be... Like, you could download things... Like, you would have stuff in your account. It's just, and then the Life 360 didn't match where his phone was, so they knew something wasn't right. There's just a lot of things that are sketch. Oh, YouTube update. You had a YouTube update. Maybe that's why. Possibly.
And a red discoloration on the back of his skull was inconclusive. Wells, as you may recall, died during a July 4th boating trip with friends. CBS News legal contributor, that's Caroline Polisi, has more. She joins us at the table to discuss. Caroline, good to have you here. So the family commissioned this autopsy. The state is also working on an autopsy. The results of that are not in yet. What do you make of what they found yesterday?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're left with a lot more questions than answers, I think, today. Perhaps different questions and more refined questions, but questions nonetheless. It's important you noted, Gail, this was an independent autopsy commissioned by the Wells's family. We're getting the results first, but there was a first autopsy performed by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office. We don't have those results yet, but think about it. A second autopsy, there are going to be inherent limitations when you're...
Right, because he's already had one autopsy. There's going to be things that are not the same as when he first arrived. Remy says, can't download or upload without signal. Life 360 wouldn't have updated. Right, and if his phone... So I think the mom said the Snapchat map in Life 360 didn't match up. Something like that. I don't remember exactly. It is baffling for sure.
Second to get the body. Why? Not the least of which is there's 6 days has elapsed since they found his body, right? Mm-hmm. They noted that there was tremendous decomposition of this.
Okay, so we back up. So they're saying, it says red discoloration, soft tissue. So it just says red discoloration, not a gash, not a cut, just discoloration.
Tremendous decomposition of this body such that they were unable to really determine if there were surface level bruises. They couldn't include or exclude those types of things. Also, you guys, the state retained the neck structures of the body, meaning...
You're basically saying there was missing body
parts, which is not unusual. I can't stress this enough. This is par for the course. You don't typically get two autopsies,
That seems
right?
concerning when you first hear it.
It does sound concerning, but this is a suspected drowning death, right? So I can't stress how long these things take. Also, we haven't gotten the toxicology report back. There is no self-respecting forensic pathologist that is going to release a...
Amen, lady. Amen, lady. Any well-respected medical examiner is going to release an autopsy report without the full findings. And I didn't want to say it before because, I was like, let me not say that because it's kind of disrespectful. But that's the first thing I thought is, how can you release a report that's not finalized?
Cause of death or a manner of death without these important pieces of information. So it's pending investigation. There are a lot of things we need to know. Not only could they not say what the cause of death was, but the manner of death as well. So
yeah, they ruled it undetermined.
Correct. So could we potentially get a cause of death from the first pathologist report? I think so. Could we get a drowning cause of death? Yes. The question, though, is the manner of death. Remember, the cause of death is the how, or excuse me, the why, the medical reason. The cause or the manner is the context.
How
right?
did it happen?
Was it homicidal? Was it suicidal? Was it accidental? I think we can rule out definitively some of these more obvious homicidal acts, like gunshot wounds, things of that nature. But still, so many questions.
Yeah, I was with you, Nate, when you heard that part of the body was missing.
Yeah.
That's not unusual.
No.
But I was thinking, as a family member, that had to be very difficult to hear that.
Just horrendous.
And still not have an answer.
Horrendous.
Like I said, so many more questions.
Yeah.
Caroline, thank you so much.
Wild. Remy says she's absolutely right. The county medical examiner asked the state to step in because of the impact the water had. And kudos to the county medical examiner for doing that. And, I can understand it because, you want to know what happened to your loved one. And I just found it very irresponsible, and it was a spectacle. That's a good way to describe the press conference they had for the autopsy, the private autopsy results. It was a spectacle, and it's just in bad taste to me. I mean, you shouldn't be clapping when you're discussing the way that someone may or may not have passed away. That's just me, though. Nanny, let me look that up. I'm guessing because they believed it was a drowning death that they would need to have parts of that. Let's see. Why do medical examiner, if I can spell. Oh my gosh, I am having a hard time here. Throat in drowning cases. Okay, let's see what Google says. Okay, so medical examiners keep parts of the throat during drowning and suspicious death autopsies to check for hidden trauma, evaluate the airway, and run microscopic or chemical tests. Pathologists remove and retain the tongue, larynx, hyoid bone, and trachea as a single unit to look for tiny fractures or deep muscle bruising that could indicate strangulation or physical assault before or during a drowning event. Okay, so that makes sense, because if your hyoid bone is broken, that was probably because you were strangled. The upper airway is closely inspected for foreign objects, signs of severe spasms, or inhaled froth and fluid linked to water entry. Preserved tissue blocks allow for microscopic or histological review or toxicological screening while final reports are prepared. I agree, Remy. They definitely have a long-term motive. I question whether they rushed the second. Yeah. And I hate to think this way because I just feel like it's wrong. Why did they pick the pathologist they did in DC? Is it a friend? Is it someone close to them? Is it someone who may lean their way, so to speak? I feel like it's very irresponsible for them to do that. And I did see that before the funeral, the mom had said she was receiving threats. And that's not cool either. That's not cool either. So that is what I have in regards to Nolan. I just have a few more stories that we're going to talk about, and these are a little different. Let's see, what's the next one? Oh, so the next one, this is completely changing gears. The next story I have is, I had seen this last week where I don't remember the airline, but a man, the window that he was sitting next to on the plane shattered, and he was nearly sucked out of the plane. And his wife, who was next to him, and some other passengers held on to him until they could make an emergency landing. And so the man who survived spoke out. So that's the next story we have. Yeah, Remy, I agree. What social media has done to his friends has been disgusting. And the fact that they're making it a race issue, it's not a race issue at all. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. All right, so here we go. So the title of this is Man Partially Pulled Out of Plane Window Mid-Air Speaks Out. So yeah, it did. I think that was Frontier. Was it Frontier Airlines where the door fell off? Let me see. I'm going to Google it right quick. What airline did a door fall off? Oh, no, it wasn't. It was Alaska Airlines. And that was in 2024, it says. January 2024. But there was one recently, I feel like something... Oh, here, June 2025. Oh, so here, in June 2025, there was also a door plug panel flew off the plane. So that was about a year ago. It's wild.
We're hearing for the first time from the Ryanair passenger who was partially sucked out of this plane's window.
Look at that. I mean, that is scary. Terrifying even.
Mid-flight, he and his wife say fellow passengers pulled him back in, saving his life. Here's NBC's Tom Costello.
These are the images, the blown-out window and the dangling oxygen masks that still haunt Ljubisa Karavich, the man who was violently sucked out of a plane up to his chest when a window blew out on a flight from Greece to Germany. Karavich tells the Guardian newspaper, "It's the noise before the chaos, the noise that is always there when I close my eyes to sleep." With his head and shoulders hanging out of the plane, his wife and fellow passengers pulled him back inside.
I mean, I would, yeah, sheer terror. I would assume that, right, they tell us to fasten seatbelts. How about fasten the doors and windows? Or make sure there's not, fractures or something that could go wrong with the windows. I always keep my seatbelt on, even on buses. Like, I'm just terrified. Always worrying. So even on a plane, I always have my belt on. And it makes you wonder, like, trains don't have seatbelts, which is interesting to me.
His upper body was severely disfigured. His arm was badly injured, and there was blood everywhere, she says. The plane's right side engine appears to have ripped apart in flight, possibly sending shrapnel into the window. Once back inside, one passenger blocked the window with a suitcase, and Karavich, his wife says, passed out 3 times. "I thought I was losing him. His heart was beating so violently." But she says flight attendants only came to help after the pilots had made an emergency landing in Greece.
What? I didn't realize that. So she's saying that the flight attendants didn't come to assist until after they made the emergency landing. Remy says, I think everyone should have one of those seatbelt cutters in their purse on a keychain. Get one that's highly reviewed. You know, and I have one of those, and I also have, so it's the, on one end is the seatbelt cutter, and on the other end is the glass shatterer. And I always think, like, if I was in a situation where I would need it, depending on how I was compromised, I may not even be able to reach it. So it's like, I usually keep it in the glove compartment, like right next to, you know, the driver's seat, between the driver and the passenger seat. But even then, it's like, I don't know. Well, that's true, Cheese. The flight attendants are probably trained to lock themselves down. Oh, you can Velcro them to the dash or door.
Ryanair told The Guardian as soon as the aircraft descended to a safe altitude, our cabin crew attended to and assisted Mr. Karavich. Now at home, the 61-year-old father of two says he doesn't remember much and his head and neck still hurt, but he's alive.
The U.S. NTSB is leading the investigation and says it has not ruled out aircraft age or service issues as a cause. The family is demanding accountability.
Well, I would too. I would too. And I don't think there's any updates on this because I'm pretty sure that that clip was from, but I'm going to just check to see if there's anything else. So yeah, that was from 2 days ago. Oh, what's this? Ryanair boss makes claim about incident where man was sucked out of window whilst on flight with wife. Okay, so let's see what this says. The boss of Ryanair has responded after a horrifying incident where a passenger was sucked out of a plane window. Karavich and his wife Svetlana were traveling from Greece to Germany on Ryanair flight FR 1879. Moments after the plane took off, Karavich had settled into window seat 11C when he recalls hearing a sound like an explosion as the window broke, causing the cabin to lose pressure. Terrifyingly, due to the pressure change, Karavich was then sucked out of the window, leaving his head and shoulders outside the aircraft. His wife had been seated three rows behind him in 14C, and she ran to grab hold of his legs to keep him inside the plane. In an interview with Serbian language outlet Nova, she recalled how she put herself at risk. I reacted immediately and grabbed his legs. I thought, if we die together. It was horrible. In the wake of the incident, Ryanair boss Michael O'Leary has told the press that while the investigation is in its early days, they have some idea of what might have caused it. He said initial investigations suggest it looks like a foreign object damage to the engine on takeoff, but we cannot say that definitely. According to The Sun, he said that even though the Boeing 737 was 18 years old, the engine had undergone a refurbishment and service in the last 2 years. The boss added that a draft report of the incident investigation would be released within 28 days. A lawyer acting for the couple, Vasilis Siaris, told the outlet how passengers tried to block the gap with luggage. He said there was a big hole that they tried to seal with a suitcase, which was a little bit soft and was sucked from the plane. They tried to do the same with more of a tough suitcase and managed to stop the flow of air. He went on to say that his client is alive by mistake after what happened, and his odds of surviving it. He dipped in and out of death. When the cabin lost pressure, he was hurled out of the window from his chest up and immediately lost consciousness. He was on that plane heading to Germany to celebrate his brother's birthday. Instead, at 15,000 feet, he ended up with his head and right arm outside the aircraft as it moved at a speed of more than 600 kilometers per hour, which is 370 miles per hour. Karavich says he has been destroyed mentally following the incident. Wearing a neck brace after he was finally released from the hospital, The survivor told The Guardian, "It's the noise before the chaos, the noise that is always there when I close my eyes to sleep. I don't remember much, and my head and neck still hurt, but I am still alive. It could have been the seatbelt, the fact that I was still strapped in. Oh, well, there we have it. He had his seatbelt on. The pressure was that strong to pull him out. Maybe that is why he didn't go out immediately. Yeah, he went out head first. But maybe it is fate. I believe in God, and I thank him every day." So he says maybe he's still alive because of the seatbelt. Oh my gosh, how has it already been an hour and a half? Okay, so I am actually, the one story I have, I'm actually going to keep for a later time. We're going to go to the very last story I have, just because it has been an hour and a half and I need to go take care of kittens. This was a very good discussion, though. So thank you so much, everyone, again, for being here. I do appreciate it. And I always enjoy your thoughts and questions and all of that. So the story about the woman, so the story that I'm going to skip is a postal carrier, okay? A postal carrier was taking cats she found along her delivery route, and her house was in deplorable condition, like absolutely disgusting, and it's believed she took upwards of 80 cats from the streets. So we're going to keep that for later. But the last story I have, usually I have a feel-good story. This is actually to me, it was hilarious. I was laughing. So these robots were fighting, and one of them lost its head. But the robot without the head kept fighting. And I didn't realize that this is a thing, but this is the second video I've seen of robots fighting. So I need to look more into this because this just seems like it would be a really fun event to go to. So this is the last story we're gonna talk about today. I mean, it's just like, what? I mean, we had the one story about robots working in a hospital. I actually had a story we never got to of a robot actually performed surgery. That one I didn't get to. But I mean, this just looks like it would be so fun to go watch. Is this, you know, let me Google, is robot boxing new? Let's see what Google says. All right. Well, yes, it is. It says China hosted the world's first professional humanoid robot MMA and kickboxing fight night in Shenzhen in July 2026. Organized as part of the new Robot Combat Leagues, the event featured advanced machines from companies like Unitree Trading, Real Punches, and Kicks in the Ring. Featured models like Unitree G1 humanoid robots, about 4 feet tall and 77 pounds, wearing boxing gear and head protection, alongside heavier prototypes. It utilizes high torque motion control, real-time AI decision-making, and rapid balance recovery algorithms, designed to push hardware durability, sensor accuracy, and neural network reflexes for future commercial robotics. So, are they remotely controlled? Let me put that in. Are they remotely controlled? No, they are generally not fully autonomous. Most modern humanoid robot boxing leagues utilize hybrid remote control. Depending on the specific championship league and the setup, the control mechanics are split between human input and onboard artificial intelligence. Human pilots stand outside the ring wearing virtual reality headsets and motion tracking vests or joysticks. When the human throws a hook or takes a step, that high-level operational command is beamed instantly to the robot. The robot's internal AI systems handle the physical execution. The person cannot manually control dozens of hydraulic or electronic joints at once. Therefore, the onboard neural network automatically calculates the necessary weight distribution, joint angles, and real-time stabilization required to execute the human's command without tipping over. This might be like, this seems really interesting. I may look into this a little bit more because Summer says, when my mom was in the hospital, there was a robot in the main lobby that made coffee. It was kind of cool, but also weird. Yeah. It's almost like the, you know, they have like the robotic baristas now that, or, you know, waiters and or servers. They have like the servers who will do certain things, and yeah, AI is here. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Damn, do you see how fast they got up? Holy, let me rewind. I might need to make a short of this. This is, whoa, look at that pause shot. So this one like jumped up and kicked the other one. All right, hold on. Let me back up even more. Here we go. They got up really fast. Yes, I remember Short Circuit. Whoa, that one's having a little trouble. They're going, like they're punching the wrong direction. Like oh, that one's head was like dangling. I didn't realize that until just now. There it goes. This is like really funny. I don't know. Maybe nobody else finds it funny, but I think this is hilarious. And maybe it's the people in the like the crowd making those noises and like the oh, you know, but it's like jumping around like a jumping bean. Battle of the Terminators, I know. Oh my gosh. And they're like, this one's like flopping around and like a fish out of water. That one's dancing. Something else fell off. I don't know if it was one of them's like piece of their foot or what, but something fell off over here. I mean, and this isn't bad for the first time. I want to see the battle on breakdancing. I Wonder said, I just had a thought. What if somebody or someday in the future there will be robots watch humans box in an arena? Yeah, this is nuts, but man, this is funny. Oh, he's having some trouble now. His head's weighing him down. That was dancing. Oh, and that was it. So I guess that was the match. The robot that, you know, lost its head couldn't stand back up. The fact that they're doing it in the makes it all the more fun. I don't know. I'm gonna have to make that a short because that is like, I kept watching it. Like I couldn't, like somebody said, I couldn't stop watching. Like it was like, what? And then you see something new, and like the one's dancing, and then they're like, one's walking backwards. They're trying to kick each other, and they're not even close. Yeah, it is very entertaining. Flopping like a fish. Yep. Yeah, Marie, there are already robots or AI watching us every day. I'm probably going to get a bunch of robot videos on my YouTube feed or ads about robots on different things that I look at. So thanks everyone for being here. I do appreciate it. Tomorrow at 7 Eastern, we'll be finishing up talking about Andrew and Tristan Tate. So I have those couple of articles that I wanted to look at, and I'm also going to look into who their parents were, if I can find anything else. I'm not well versed in the Tate sphere. There are others that are much more knowledgeable. I just find it very interesting that they started as kickboxers with not a lot of money and found themselves in this cult-like business where they were, promising things to girls and then taking away passports and making them, do things. They were into trafficking, even though they say they're innocent. So, yeah. Geez, are you and KCG going live? I know KCG has been frustrated lately. But hopefully soon, because that was, I will say, the other night when they were live, it was just nice. It was relaxing, it was funny, it was just nice. Okay, you might do one on your own later. Okay, all right, well, with that, have a great rest of your night, day, morning, wherever you are. If you haven't hit the like, please remember to do so on your way out. If you are watching this on the replay, #replay. No outro tonight. So until next time, y'all, I will see you on the flip side.